Welcome to Joyful Marketing. I'm Simone Soul, and I teach you how to get your life coaching practice fully booked without having to pay for ads, buy Instagram followers, or complicated sales funnels. It's not rocket science, and you can do it too. Listen on to find out how.
Hey friends, I am so happy to bring you a conversation today with one of my clients, Bryn Bamber, who is a mental health professional and a coach and a member of the Joyful Marketing community. Now, I want to tell you why I invited her on. I invited her to chat with me as a guest expert because what she has to share, what she has to teach is so important. We're going to go into depth talking about how to get your nervous system to be on your side when you're marketing. That's so important. Here are some things we cover. We talk about how exactly the fight or flight response is showing up in your marketing so you can have awareness of that and know how to respond to it. We're going to talk about how to reduce social media triggers to a highly sensitive nervous system so it's not a stressful experience to get online. We're going to talk about effective ways to calm your nervous system and plug into the state of your God-given creativity, which is where you can unleash your best content, and effective ways for completing the stress cycle after you have shared something, after you've posted. Because sometimes, listen, we're going to need that, right? You know how it is. You post something and too many people respond, not enough people respond. You get deafening crickets. You get a critical comment and then your nervous system goes all crazy. Instead of living in fear of that, we're going to help your body feel safe after all that happens so that you can get back to creating and sharing. We're going to talk about how it's not that you're lazy or uninspired or lacking, brilliance. It's just that you might have centuries of patriarchal programming internalized that might be keeping your creativity locked up and how to start to undo that. And last but not least, we're going to share some powerful ideas about how to disarm shame so that you can get back to being your most powerful and authentic self while marketing. This isn't like nice to have. This isn't like extra information that comes into play when you're marketing. To me, this is foundational. This is the most important thing and really key to how I have, self-coached and self-healed in my life to get to a place where I can be a powerful creator and sharer for my community. And it's exactly the thing that I teach in Joyful Marketing to help my clients unleash their own magnetic, powerful voices online and help them connect to their ideal clients. So you do not want to miss this conversation. So can't wait to dive into all of that. So let's go. Here's my conversation with Bryn Bamber. Bryn, I'd love to hear your thoughts, but I think it's fascinating to me that in today's day and age where all of us are so heavily involved in social media and we do so much of our marketing, if not all of our marketing on social media, and there is so much information out there about how to do social media marketing, like literally like oceans and oceans of information and teachings, et cetera, right? And like, basically, none of it is about acknowledging the reality of what it does to your nervous system.
Right.
And also, none of it acknowledging how, I think 98% of the problems that people have with social media marketing is not a strategy problem. It's a nervous system problem.
100%. Yeah.
Tell me all about it. We agree. Now we're going to talk. We're going to sell you on why this is true.
Yeah. So, I think it's a nervous system problem or a perfectionism problem. It's some sort of...
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I just read a quote that was like, I am so sorry. I can't remember who it's from, but somebody had said perfectionism is just like shame wearing a nice dress.
Right.
And I was like, yeah it's just shame. Your body processing shame. Go ahead.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And so, I think you're right that a lot of people are like, oh, I need accountability. I need an accountability buddy, or I need a strategy, or I need to plan
a caption template.
Yeah. Or give me the structure for my copy, blah, blah, blah. Like people are asking for all these things. The problem is that if you are in fight or flight, if your nervous system is activated, you're not going to want to do any of it. And you can kind of willpower your way to a degree when you're in that kind of place. Like you can kind of buckle up and force yourself to do a live or force yourself to write a post and post it. But when you're writing a post from a place of fight or flight, it's probably not going to be your most creative work. One of the issues with fight or flight is like, fight or flight is amazing, right? Like it's this thing that has kept us alive, kept us safe from bears and from, and from humans at times.
Yeah.
Too. It's a super helpful process. And when you're in fight or flight, your brain goes into this very black and white place. It goes into like safe, unsafe. Mm-hmm. Kind of puts things in two categories. And so it makes it incredibly difficult to make any kind of business decision, including social media decisions. What color do I use? When you're in this place of, is it safe or unsafe?
Yeah. When your brain is trying to figure out if you're safe or unsafe, or in other words, am I going to die or not? Right.
Yeah.
And that sounds very dramatic, but it literally is as dire and black and white to your brain as, if we do this, we're going to die. And we have to like stay safe so we don't die. And when that happens what happens when that happens is that you actually lose all access to, I think, your creativity, to your brilliance, everything that, like, all the creative drive and the passion that got you to say in the first place, I'm going to be a life coach. I love helping people. I know how to help people. That's all the good juice you have up in there. The access blocked because your brain's like, creativity, we don't have time for that. We're going to die. Right?
Exactly. Which is like amazing, right? If there is a lion, you don't want to be like, oh, let's brainstorm. Let's think outside the box. You want to be like, there's a tree. It's safe. Yeah. Let's climb the tree.
We're going to climb it. Yeah.
So it's amazing when it's social media, it can be, people can become paralyzed because they feel like they have to there's one right decision. And if they get it wrong, their business is going to fail.
Totally. And let's talk about some symptoms, because I think most people, if you're listening, you're probably a life coach. If you're a life coach, you probably know what fight or flight is. But I want to spell out how this shows up for you, because it might be a little bit abstract because you're like, I don't know if that really happens to me, but it happens to you if you ever have the experience of like trying to write for social media, trying to write content, trying to write copy, and then you go blank.
Yeah.
Right. Lots and lots and lots of coaches tell me, I just go blank. I just don't know what to say. That, my friend, is like a freeze symptom.
Yeah.
Right. Nobody became a life coach because they didn't have enough things to say. Right. We are all talkers. I mean, some of us are introverted, but still you have so much to offer. You're full of wisdom. You're full of life coaching, just like tricks and tips and tools and advice for all of your people. I know it. And when someone like you just goes blank, I don't know what to say, that is a fight or flight freeze symptom, right? What are some other sort of like concrete ways that people can recognize when this is happening in their lives, Bryn?
Yeah, I think it's when it feels awful.
Yeah.
In general, like if you're like, when you're in that moment and you're at your desk or wherever you try to create your content and you're like, I hate marketing.
Right.
I just hate it.
Yeah. Or like, even like, I hate Instagram. I hate Facebook. Like if you're having a bad experience, right? Why does that happen?
Yeah. I think because you go into this black, white, safe, unsafe place, and it feels like if you make the wrong decision, everything is going to crumble. And that's like so painful. None of us want to feel that. And so then you're like, oh, I'd rather just not even do this.
Totally. I think it's the shame thing you were talking about, right? It's like you have to make a move. And if you make the wrong move, like you're going to die. It's as I think for so many people posting on social media feels like, or at least something close to, you're standing in front of the classroom. The teacher is asking you a question about the class material. in front of everybody and you have to get the answer right. And if you don't, and the entire class is going to laugh at you and the teacher's going to punish you. Right. So if you're in that situation, of course, you're not going to know what to say. Of course, you're going to not have a good time. You're not going to enjoy the experience. And Britt, I think that also, even if you're not actively creating something, just scrolling through social media can be an assault on your nervous system if you just let your brain like run unchecked. So you just said, oh my God, really emphatically. So tell me how you see that playing out.
So I don't scroll as a rule in my life because I have to do like so much thought work or so much processing. I can read one post and feel the sadness or the heartbreak of it, or feel the anger of it, or feel the jealousy of it. But when social media is kind of like when you're scrolling the feed, it's this cocktail where it's like heartbreak. And then there's like some post that's infuriating. And then there's a post of like a colleague of yours doing a bit better, and then you feel jealous. And then there's like an inspirational quote and you feel like happy or peaceful. But what can happen, and I think what happens for me and for a lot of people who are highly sensitive, and maybe to everyone, is that you can't process in the amount of time. You can't process that many emotions. So you just go numb.
It truly is overload. And I think if you don't know what's happening to your nervous system, that if you are highly sensitive, and even if you're not highly sensitive, like if you find yourself reacting to it, then you're sensitive enough. And that what happens is that we just get like kind of burnt out just reading other people's stuff, and it kind of saps our energy for wanting to do things. And it's so interesting because Bryn and I have opposite strategies. She just does not scroll, which I think is amazing. And what I do is that my feeds are always highly, highly curated, meaning I am like ruthless with the unfollow button, the block button. I don't follow news in my feeds. I don't follow other coaches. I don't follow almost like any coaches in my social media. And if I do, it's because like I check in with myself, and I always ask myself before I follow another coach, is it always going to like make me so happy and make my day to see this person's content? And if I only follow them if the answer is yes. And that means that like, I might like completely love you, but that doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to follow you, because I'm like, when I come to my feed, I want to be happy. So I just follow like cats and dogs and like recipes and like beautiful things that make me smile, like on social media. And I'm very strict with myself. Right. And that's how I regulate my nervous system in my social media. So you can have different strategies for it. Like, I think it's very admirable to like just not scroll if that's not your thing. Or if you do, and you find yourself impacted by it, do what I do and be very, very ruthless with like what gets to make it into what gets to enter your awareness. I think of it like this, like just because it's social media, it doesn't mean it's a free for all. Think of your social media, your feed as like your living room, right? You're not just going to let anybody wander into your living room just because they're passing by your house, right? Like, you're not going to let like some random, I don't know, like any like homeless person into your house. You're not going to let, just like, it's your sacred space. Your mind, your awareness is a sacred space. Treat it like so. Not everybody just gets to wander in. And if they are, know that you have the means to filter that shit. Right? Like you can say, I'm not going to follow this. And even when like Facebook or Instagram show me ads, I recently found the button that's like, I don't want to see this ad for whatever reason. And if an ad is triggering, and like I said, believe me, I'm easily triggered. I'm like such a sensitive snowflake. I'm like, I don't want to see this ad. Don't show me this ad. Right? Like, I don't want to see this from another coach. I don't want to see this from, it's like scary news thing that's triggering me. Like, just get it all away from me. I just want to be left with like my puppies and my recipes and my cake decoration videos. Right.
Yeah. And I think that is when it comes to creating content, like that helps, right? Because then your feed is like nourishing, right?
Exactly.
There's actually like there was like a study on cat videos. Cat videos like help you regulate your nervous system. So like,
there you go. There's the answer.
Science proved it. So there's all the permission you need if anyone needed permission to
I also follow alpacas.
Okay. Amazing. I don't know if there's I don't know if they did research on the alpacas, but they did cats. And so that's like a nourishing experience for you. So then when you go to write, you aren't all triggered up or all numbed out and trying to write from that place. So I actually, my initial step was to do what you did. I curated and I had that for a few years, and then it just got to be too much with like DMing people, and I was just
no, that's awesome. Yeah, I love it that you don't scroll. That's totally an option. I think it's a very wise option. Last thing I want to add to that is like, basically like, okay, I'm just going to say it. It's going to be direct. Okay. Don't act like it's out of your control how you feel on social media, because you get to decide. You get to decide what makes it into your awareness, right? And I mean, we're gonna talk to you more about how to be gentle with yourself, how to regulate your nervous system before and after you post. But it's so useful to like be aware that social media is not happening to you. You can very much be in your own power. You can exercise your power to make choices and to expose yourself to what you want to expose yourself to, so that social media becomes an experience that you actually want to have. And I want to say it's your responsibility, because if you don't take responsibility for creating that experience on purpose, you're always going to feel like a victim of social media. And that's not a great way to feel, because there are so many opportunities there. There are so many humans that you can connect with who need your help, and they need you to be showing up there. And it's not going to feel great if you feel like you're at the effect of social media. So this episode is all about us helping you get that power back. Okay. So Bryn, so we talked about how to kind of like reduce the triggers and how to interact with social media in a way where you are more nurtured and nourished, so that you can be in a more relaxed and comforted state of mind from which to create, which is the best place to create from, right? Not when you're feeling all triggered up. So after you have shared something, after you have posted, walk us through what happens then.
Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes you're going to post something and you're not going to be triggered, right? Like, and then other times, for any number of reasons, maybe it got too many likes, it didn't get enough likes, somebody commented something that they didn't like it, or messaged you privately and said there was something wrong with it. Like, then
the worst.
Then you go back into fight or flight. And one of the things about shame is that it's this old mechanism that's trying to protect you. So from the time when we lived in villages, and if you got kicked out of the village, it was very bad. You would likely die. That you had to kind of fit in. You had to maintain that connection with the village, because that's where your safety came from. So it's this old mechanism that's trying to keep you safe again.
Yeah.
But now it's 2021, and we don't have to make everyone like us. And actually that's impossible. Yeah. And there isn't a village to get kicked out of, and telling your truth is going to help you find a community that you resonate with. And maybe some people aren't going to like it. So your nervous system does the thing where it tells you you're not safe, like something's wrong, and you feel like shit. And everyone's a bit different, right? Like some people feel very like buzzy and more anxiety, and some people feel like a black icky tar on their heart. There's different like physical sensations that happen. That is your nervous system saying like something's bad. You shouldn't have done that.
You should take that post down. You should go edit it. You should go apologize to everyone who misunderstood it.
Yeah, exactly. And so the good news about this, and I learned this partially in my studies, but I also read this book that really explained the stress cycle like in such plain language that I really love. So the book is called Burnout: The Key to Unlocking the Stress Cycle, which is an amazing book if anyone wants to check it out. But one of the ways they explain it is the stress cycle has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So when you write the post and someone comments on it or not enough people like it or whatever happens that triggers you, that's the beginning. And you end up in the middle where you feel agitated. You feel, the buzzing or the icky tar feeling, whatever happens for you. So at that point, you need to complete the stress cycle. I mean, you don't have to, right? You can stay in the middle, but it doesn't feel good and it zaps your energy. And it's very hard to like write another post or do anything kind of productive in your life when you're in that middle. So the way that you complete the stress cycle, it's a physiological process. It's a body process. And so the way it used to get completed in past times is like you would see a lion, you would run, you would, maybe a neighbor would open their door, you would run in, slam the door, and you would see this person and you would hug them and you would feel alive and you would feel safe. Do you feel safe because the lion is gone? No. You feel safe because you ran. And then you had physical contact and eye contact. So it's this like evolutionary thing that was developed and was super useful, again, way back when, and now is less useful. But we can still kind of replicate that.
So good.
So when you're completing the stress cycle, everyone is a little bit different in what helps them complete the stress cycle. And, as someone who is highly sensitive and can get into that stress cycle pretty fast and pretty easily, when people say to me, like, why don't you just take a deep breath? I'm kind of like, fuck you.
Same. I like want to kill anybody who wants to tell me to take a deep breath.
Yeah. And, breathing can work for some people and for other people, it doesn't. For me, it's not. If I'm like
only tool in your toolbox, right?
Yeah. So I'm just going to lay out for everyone listening some of the tools that are options for you. So moving your body in any way when we think about like running away from the lion. So it can be going for a walk. It doesn't have to be a run. It can be a run. For me, like music that I love and dancing can be amazing. Creativity is actually something that can really help complete the stress cycle. So actually, even watching like a movie and the character goes through these emotional arcs, you go through it with them.
Oh, it's like mirror neurons.
Yeah. And so
cool.
So to watch the movie all the way to the end where there's kind of the resolution that can bring your nervous system to resolution as well. So like,
so interesting.
If you love reading romance novels, if you love a certain TV series, and then like other series might not relax you, all the like murder, zombie, whatever. So like tune in, as I'm saying these, just like tune into your own body and just see like, do I read a certain book or watch a certain series and I feel better afterwards?
I think it's so interesting because I think a lot of coaches tend to have like shame about some of the ways they instinctively self-regulate their nervous systems. Like, I think a lot of people kind of shame themselves by saying, I buffer with Netflix, or I just, I buffer with this or that. Like I do this mindless thing. But what if it's not mindless, because what you're doing is soothing a nervous system that's been overwhelmed, and it's actually really smart. Like you didn't just watch an entire season of whatever because you're like a lazy asshole who doesn't want to feel their feelings. What if you are restoring your nervous system back to health, right? And it's actually a very wise move from your bodily programming.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's totally true. And even when I like heard the research on that, I was like, what? Because the story in my household when I was growing up was always that like TV rots your brain.
Oh my
God.
God.
I had this like,
yeah. And now the version of that is like the internet rots your brain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think use your discernment, right? Like
right.
Sometimes you are watching Netflix and it is an avoidance tactic, and like that's okay too. And you can, change that or not, whatever you want to do. And then other times it's like, no, this is the deeply healing thing. Oh my God, David Attenborough's voice.
I totally. But okay, listen, but you watch those documentaries and then like they kill a baby like deer and you're like, no, I'm now triggered. The nature
I'm now re-triggered. Yeah. No. I had a day, maybe last week or the week before, where literally I like got up for my like meetings and my client calls, and then I would like crawl into bed and like David Attenborough, because I was just, I was in a process. And so whatever, we're all a little bit different. We all have experienced different kinds of trauma. Yeah. And so what works for one person isn't always going to work for another, but you get to kind of play with this and figure it out.
Yeah. Even when you are in avoidance, right? Like I think so many coaches I've seen are very harsh with themselves when they know they're in some kind of avoidance, because avoidance doesn't make you an asshole. Avoidance doesn't make you a bad coach, doesn't make you a bad human. It doesn't mean anything. It just, I think part of what, like why avoidance happens, I think, is like your body forcing you to get equilibrium, like your body forcing you to find rest and nourishment because you won't get it yourself, right? It's like your nervous system is a little overwhelmed, it's a little fried, but then you're like, I have to keep going, I have to keep working. It's like, okay, right? So if more people were truly to allow themselves to rest and allow themselves to do the things that you just suggested to bring their nervous systems back to safety, then I think few of us would need to avoid or do these, like watch or read whatever as an avoidance tactic. And even when you are, it doesn't mean you're being bad. It's probably just a sign that you just need more comfort. And it's a good thing. Like I want more comfort, more nourishment for everyone. And avoidance is kind of like, it's a kind of like a, what do you call it? Like a slightly like warped version of it, but then it's still at a level trying to give your body what you need, right? So what if every time you found yourself in avoidance or in buffering, whatever, instead of being like, oh, you're avoiding, you're such an asshole, instead tell yourself, oh, my body, this is my body's way of trying to establish some safety. It's my body's way of trying to feel okay, like we belong, like we're going to be okay. We're not going to die, right? And what other ways can I give myself nourishment and rest that's going to go deeper, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And even like the podcast you did on like Karen Lowentheil's podcast about productivity, where it's like we live in this culture that's like fucking addicted and obsessed with productivity. And that's just like the gold star is like working 60 hours a week and like all of this stuff. And procrastination is like evil. And it's like, I don't think that's like a healthy way to look at the world. And even, people who have uteruses and the hormone cycle over a 28-day period versus like people who have more testosterone, it's like their hormone cycle is 24 hours, resets every day. So the Monday to Friday like work week was made basically for men who their hormone cycle is the same every day. Whereas women.
Whoa. Rewind that. What? You just blew my mind. What? Hold on. Say that again. Hold on.
Right. So I think I learned this from Kate Northrup, and she explained that like in men or people who have, bodies with testosterone, their hormone cycle resets in every 24-hour period. Whereas like someone who's menstruating, it's their hormone cycle completes every 28 days.
Oh my gosh. So we have like the 28 times longer, more complex hormone cycle.
Yeah. So instead of having like, I don't know exactly how the male hormone cycle goes, but instead of having like a 4-hour like low period, we'll have like a 4-day or a 6-day low period.
God. And how many of us, when we're in that, tell ourselves like, oh, you should like get it together. Why are you so lazy? You shouldn't need so much stress. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
and so we're like trying to fit ourselves into this like patriarchal box that like works better for men. And then, beating the shit out of ourselves.
That explains so much. Yeah.
Are having a low week.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. That's phenomenal. It's an amazing thing to know. I hope I'm building a strong case for why you should give yourself so much rest, why you should pay so much attention to your own nervous system cycle, to your own hormonal cycle, to make sure that, you're giving yourself what you need, because that's how you unlock your own creativity. That's how you become the kind of person who's on social media and everybody else is like, hey, how do you come up with all this good stuff? Like you already have it inside and you're never going to access it when you are like punishing yourself for your sensitivity, when you're telling yourself you're being lazy. And I think the first step is everything that you've taught today so far here, which is to recognize what's happening in the first place and to be able to frame it in your mind as, oh, this is an evolutionary reaction that's happening in my body. This is chemicals and hormones in my nervous system. And when this happens, my brain goes into that, and just like being able to put everything in context, right? That's the first step, the awareness, the ability to put things in context. And then you can put things into action. Okay, now I go for a walk. Now I watch this Netflix series. Now I read this book. Now I'm going to block this person, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one of the things that I didn't say that I wanted to say to everyone listening today is that also like talking about it. Like if you have another friend who's a coach who sometimes also gets triggered, like with shame, one of the best remedies for shame is empathy. And so to have a friend, to talk to a friend and have the friend, and Brené Brown says like, people have to earn the right to hear your shame story, right? Like this isn't like go post this on social media. No, right. Like to someone you trust. It can be your spouse. It can be a coach friend. It can be whoever it is, but someone
your dog.
Yeah. But to say this happened to me and it was hard and I feel like crap, and to have someone say like, I get it. I have been there, or like, good for you for telling your truth.
Yeah. Or you're so courageous to show up, right?
Yeah. Because I think, especially as women, I went to this workshop that was about women writing memoirs. And one of the things they said, it was kind of like how women's memoirs are judged more harshly than men's memoirs. And one of the things they said is like, women have been fighting for the right to have a voice for centuries.
Millennia, I think. Yeah.
And it's new, and some people are still going to try and silence you.
For
when
sure.
You have a voice. And just so to know, like, one of the things that was super powerful for me about this workshop is that there were like 450 women on the call. And the chat was like going like nuts.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm not alone. Yeah. I'm not the only one who's like terrified to tell my story and to tell the truth. To just be, even though I didn't like, I couldn't well, I guess we could see each other like occasionally, but like mostly I couldn't see these women, but just seeing the number at the bottom of the Zoom screen that was like 450 and just everyone staying till the end being like, okay, I'm not the only one. You know, my problem, I'm not like the fucked up,
Yeah.
super fucked up one. It's like,
I'm not uniquely defective.
yeah, it's like, it is scary to tell the story of your trauma, to tell the truth. And so, yeah, all of that to say that it is hard to put yourself out there authentically on social media. And there are systems, and there's the patriarchy, and there's, you know, racist, white supremacist systems and ableist systems, all different kinds of systems that are happening. And there are people that are enforcing those systems.
100%.
So sometimes when someone comments on your post, you know, they're probably not doing it consciously, but they might be a part of a system that's trying to keep women quiet.
Yeah. If somebody has a problem with what you're saying, wants to control what you're saying, and they want you to say it the way they want you to say it, right? It's probably like, they probably have some kind of like internalized, some form of oppression where it's not, they don't feel okay to voice their own opinions, or they don't feel okay expressing themselves unless it's the correct way to think, because they believe that there is such a thing as being correct that's going to keep them safe, right? Like they themselves are tethered to this way of like, okay, it's very important to be safe. And the only way we can be safe is if we're thinking the right things, doing the right things. And you wearing a low cut top is wrong because I think that I'm going to be unsafe if I wear a low cut top, right? Because of these internalized rules that I have. I mean, like we're laughing, but that's like literally Susan Hyatt was just on my podcast and she was saying like her assistants have to like crop out like her cleavage in her photos.
I heard that.
Yeah, she gets so much hate. It's
Photoshop camisoles.
Right. Right. Exactly. It's like so crazy, but it's like, and so many people, like so many other women respond to her, like being like, oh, that's inappropriate. You shouldn't say that. You shouldn't pose like that. You shouldn't wear that. Right. So all those, what's happening over there is like internalized oppression. Like they have a program that says, if you, as a woman, this is the correct way to be. And it's really important to be the correct way of being a woman, because otherwise you're in danger. Like they're going to come kill you. Right.
Yeah. And one like workaround of all of that, like of all different kinds of oppression that I've been kind of working with in my own life and I'm starting to share with my clients, I think it's a really powerful concept, is like this concept of aligned badness.
Ooh,
so like there are so many ways, like as a child, I was told of like good girls. Good girls, you know, are pretty, but not too pretty. Good girls are quiet. Good girls are nice. Good girls take care of other people. Da, 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 da.
They don't hurt other people's feelings.
Yeah. And so to like reprogram all of those thoughts, there's so many, to be like, no, it's actually good to be loud, or it's actually good to wear a low cut top if that makes you feel beautiful.
Yeah.
The idea is like, it's good to be bad. Like,
love it.
But I couldn't quite handle that. I was like, my brain was like, it's bad to be bad. It's bad to be bad. But I can get around like aligned badness, like not badness, aligned badness. So like not being bad for the sake of being bad, not being bad just to like hurt people or whatever.
To be true to yourself.
Yeah. And
where did you say you got that idea?
I have been working on it like with my coach. I work with Kristen King. And so like in my own, you know, healing journey of being a good girl and wanting to be a good girl, this is like one of the ways I'm starting to heal.
That's so fun. I love it. Is there anything else you wanted to cover that we left out?
I think we hit everything on my notes.
That's so good. Yeah, I think, gosh, I'm so glad we've had a chance to talk about it. And I also want to tell people this isn't like optional work that's like nice to do. It's foundational. It's so important. Like there's no secret to creativity. There's no secret to coming up with amazing content that everybody wants to follow and makes them want to hire you for. this is it. Like you already have that magnetism inside you. The only thing that's keeping it like covered is if your body thinks if you do anything wrong, you're going to die. Right. Yeah. So tell us just a little bit. I just want you to brag on yourself a little bit about how much, like, you know, the kind of accomplishments, what you've created in your business as a result of, you know, having learned all these ways of tending to yourself. Right.
Yeah. So I think I wrote this to you in the email where I was suggesting this episode is the month that I joined Joyful Marketing. I had like my biggest revenue month ever. I had my first 10K month.
Nice.
And I think learning to show up in a way that feels authentic and to rest when I need to rest is really allowing me to attract the people that I'm meant to work with.
Yeah. I think so much of the work is like, we think the only type of accomplishments are like, oh, I hit this money goal. I crossed this income, you know, milestone, etc. But I think that all comes eventually. And a lot of that is not a direct reflection of like what you're doing right in that moment. It's a reflection of like the value that you have accumulated. Right. Yeah. So that is a cool and meaningful metric. Like, yay, you had your first 5-figure month, but also to me, it's like, are you enjoying your business, right? Like, are you enjoying the humans that you talk to? Are you enjoying your being a coach, right? Sharing ideas. To me, like, if you are enjoying all of that, and if you're enjoying growing, then like all the money stuff is going to catch up with you, right? And I would rather, like, I know so many coaches who are doing very well, like financially, but are so unhappy and feel like miserable in their success because, again, success in those terms, whatever, like that's not like money isn't, those circumstances aren't creating the feeling of safety. And if anything, your brain can kind of like use it to make your anxiety worse about like, oh no, it's all going to come crashing down. Oh no, like, and you start to make decisions out of fear and more scarcity for fear of like needing to hold on to what you've created because of what your brain is making it mean, right? So yes, I celebrate your monetary success, but also so much more than that is, I think, the quality of just how you feel in your business day in and day out, right?
Yeah.
Because that also directly translates to the kind of experience that clients have working with you.
Totally. Yeah. And when I think about like, I had a different apartment a few years ago, and I just remember trying to write posts there. And it was this horrible, like I, had the time set aside in my calendar, and it was sitting down and like kind of grinding it out and trying to, and posting, like white knuckling it to the end and pressing post. And yeah, the difference in that now compared to like, oh, I have an idea when I'm on a walk, I like make a note of it, or like I just wrote a post. This was so fun. I wrote this post, all the reasons why you shouldn't hire me. And it's like, I'm intense. I'm passionate. I'm super woo-woo, like all of these things. And that was like really fun and playful and cheeky to write. And yeah, it's just like writing a post could take me like an hour or 2 hours. And then like writing a post like that feels fun and playful, it's like done in 20 minutes.
Right.
Like it's just like pours out.
Mm-hmm. When you're relaxed, when you feel safe in your nervous system.
Yeah. And exactly. When you are back in like rest and digest, which is like the opposite of fight or flight, like, that's when we have access to creativity, to learning, to all of the things that we need to build successful and meaningful and fun businesses.
Yeah. So good. All right, Bryn, thank you for all of this wisdom. I think it's so incredibly useful. And I know that I learned some things that completely blew my mind today. Who should come work with you, and what are some ways people can find you?
I work with weirdos, creatives, spiritual people. Those are my people. A lot of my clients are what I call entrepreneurs, not by choice. They're kind of like Reiki masters. And if they could get hired at Reiki Corporation, they would, but That's not happening. So they're on this journey, of showing up on social media because they feel like they've been forced to. But the beauty of that is that you get to become your authentic self. You get to stand in your truth. You get to say what you mean. Like, if a lot of my clients, when they start working with me, they think it's like this burden that they have to do the marketing and they have to do the sales. But it's actually this like deeply healing process.
Yeah, you get to find your power.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're woo-woo, talk to me. And where you can find me is my Instagram is at Bryn_Bamber. My website is brynbamber.com. I have a podcast. It's called the Sacred Mental Health Podcast. It's amazing. I talk about, sometimes more sciencey mental health stuff, sometimes more woo-woo mental health stuff.
Go find Bryn Bamber and hire her and soak up all the wisdom that she offers. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll be back with more next week. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye. Hey, if you want a shot of fresh inspiration and actionable tips to improve your marketing every single week in your inbox, you better get on my email list. Sign up to receive my free ebook called 20 Unsolicited Copy Tips. It's been known to get people to come out of the woodwork and ask to work with you. So get on that, link in the show notes, and I'll see you in your inbox next time.